Why smart people stay in toxic relationships longer than anyone else. You probably know someone like this. Maybe they're the person everyone goes to for advice. They see through lies almost instantly. They notice details everyone else misses. At work, they make sharp decisions under pressure. Friends trust their judgment because they rarely get things wrong. And yet, in their own relationship, they stay. Not for a few weeks. Sometimes for years. Everyone around them can see it. The broken promises. The emotional distance. The cycle of hope followed by disappointment. And the question everyone asks is the same one. Why don't they just leave? The easy answer is that they're weak, or naive, or blinded by love. But that answer is wrong. Psychology tells a very different story. Intelligence does not protect a person from staying in a relationship that's hurting them. In some ways, it does the opposite. Here's why. In 1957, a psychologist named Leon Festinger published a theory that explains a huge amount of human self-deception. He called it cognitive dissonance. The idea is simple. When two beliefs you hold contradict each other, your brain experiences that contradiction as real, measurable discomfort. And your mind is built to get rid of that discomfort as fast as it can. Now picture the beliefs sitting inside someone who's stuck in a relationship like this. Belief 1. I'm a smart, capable person who makes good decisions. Belief 2. I have stayed in a relationship that hurts me for 2 years. Those two beliefs don't fit together. Something has to give. The mind has 2 ways to resolve that. Change the behavior, meaning leave, and admit the relationship was a mistake. Or change the story, meaning minimize what's bad, magnify what's good, and reframe the whole thing as more complicated than it looks from the outside. The second option is faster. It's less painful. So that's almost always the one the brain reaches for. They're just stressed. They had a difficult childhood. They didn't mean it. Things will get better after this. Notice something about those sentences. They don't sound irrational. They sound compassionate, reasonable, even intelligent. And that's exactly what makes them so dangerous. Because the smarter a person is, the more convincingly they can build the case for staying. This isn't a person lying to themselves badly. It's the human mind doing exactly what Festinger's research says it's built to do, just aimed at the wrong target. Think of a brilliant lawyer in a courtroom. A skilled lawyer can defend almost any position, not because every position is true, but because they're good at finding evidence that supports it. Once someone's mind becomes emotionally invested in staying, it starts acting like its own defense attorney. Every apology becomes evidence. Every good weekend becomes proof. Meanwhile, the evidence against the relationship doesn't disappear. It just stops getting looked for. There's a second mechanism working alongside this one. And it has a name too. In 1985, researchers Hal Arks and Catherine Bloomer gave it a formal description. The sunk cost fallacy. It's the tendency to keep investing in something specifically because you've already invested in it, even when every signal says stop. Picture someone 30 minutes into a terrible movie. The logical choice is to walk out. But most people stay until the credits roll because they already paid for the ticket. The money is already spent either way. Staying doesn't bring it back. It only costs them something more valuable. Their time. Relationships create a much stronger version of this same trap. I've already spent 5 years with them. We've built a life together. I can't just throw all of that away. But leaving doesn't waste those years. those years already happened. Staying for 5 more years doesn't recover the first 5. It only adds to what's already been spent. And here's the part that explains why this gets harder over time, not easier. Cognitive dissonance and the sunk cost fallacy feed each other. The longer someone stays, the more they've invested, which makes leaving feel like a bigger admission of loss, which makes the mind work even harder to protect the story that staying still makes sense. It's not weakness. It's a documented, mechanical pattern in how the brain protects both its self-image and its past decisions. This is also why intelligence doesn't shield anyone from it. Reasoning ability doesn't decide whether dissonance shows up. It decides how convincing the story built around it becomes. A person who's good at building an airtight argument for a client, or a project, or a decision at work, is using that exact same skill, without realizing it, to build an airtight argument for staying. Which brings us to the real question. Not, why doesn't a smart person see the red flags? They usually do see them. The real question is, what happens inside the mind after the red flags have already been seen? Because that's a completely different battle. Not between two people, between two parts of the same mind. One quietly says, this isn't healthy. The other answers, there has to be another explanation. That conversation can run for months, sometimes for years. And it's not evidence that someone isn't smart enough to notice what's happening. It's evidence that their mind is doing exactly what every mind is built to do. Protecting its own story from a contradiction it doesn't want to face. Understanding that difference doesn't make leaving easy, but it changes the question people ask themselves. Not, what's wrong with me for staying? But, which part of my mind is actually running this decision? Because once someone can name it, they can start to see past it. That's where we're going next. Because there's a second force behind this pattern, one that has nothing to do with reasoning at all. It lives much deeper in the brain, and it can keep someone stuck, even after they've already seen the truth clearly.